One thing I knew about, one thing I did know about. Does anybody play guitar or record music in here? Anybody record music? Some of you, a couple of you. When you record music, guitar in particular, I'm in punk bands, so very often they use this thing called compression, which is if somebody's playing a musical instrument, not just guitar or drums, but anything, or vocals, and if they're playing inconsistently, you don't want that recorded, because you don't want like kind of inconsistent like pick strokes or snare hits or things like that. So what you can do with this tool called compression is you can set a baseline level below which or above which you can't go. Above which would be called gating and below which would be called compression. So if somebody's hitting a drum, say for example, and one of their hits is lighter than the rest, the compressor will take that and make it louder in the recording. Does that make sense? So it's a way of fixing inconsistencies. Okay. Well, it turns out it's also used in commercials and audio recordings for things like commercials and movies and things. So what they're able to do is they're able to compress low volumes up to make them higher. But because there are thresholds set, gates if you will, set, if you look at the red line and think of the red line as a commercial and the blue line as a show, the commercials might have the same peak decibel level as the show, which we just basically agreed with, right? We just said it doesn't appear the commercials are louder. So either they're quieter or they're the same. We'll still look the same. So the red, see how that shout up there, the red and the blue are the same? But do you see how the entire rest of the commercial is louder than the corresponding parts of the show? That's what I want to go back in and test with my data. I want to test not just peak. Somebody who pointed that out earlier, the peak bit. Somebody pointed that out. Thank you, Jolene. I want to go back in and test that curve, which would show that the average might be higher, but the peak might not be. Maybe it makes sense. What's interesting too is as I dug more, I found some other articles. Ooh, there's an article here somewhere. There it is. Why the ads seem louder. This is actually an explanation of compression. I'll have this posted for you. You can read it later. But look at this. December 13, 2011 adopted the rule cannot be louder than television shows anymore. I kept reading because I'm like, wait a minute. The rules adopted today require that commercials have the same average volume, not peak volume. So I started digging more to try to find their data. Guess what? I couldn't find it. So I gotta make my own. I gotta make my own. Then I didn't make my own. I gotta collect my own data. Gotta collect my own. I haven't gotten around to it. TV commercials could not be louder than the TV show. TV commercials can no longer be louder. That's a very vague statement, right? Louder in which way, and then somewhere hidden in there is the word average. So that's what I want to test next. You guys are off the hook once I can find it between now and week 11. So I guarantee I won't, because I have to sleep a little bit there.
Yeah.
Fair? Decent. Good. All right. Any questions about that one? Make sense? It's still a t-test. It's still a single t-test. But it's more fun, in my book, it's more fun. Because there's not some superfluous number you're comparing data to. Like IQ is compared to 100. Speed limits are compared to 30. We didn't use the number 72 and 68 and 70 and 74 at all. It's purely difference between the values. Now that can create a problem. We'll deal with that in the next data set we play with right now. But cool? Fair? Excellent. Here's what I want you to do next. I got some stopwatches and some pennies. I'm going to hand them around. Grab a stopwatch. And actually, I think we did this before with stopwatches in here. Some of you use cell phones. You have to use stopwatches for this. So if you're running with stopwatches, just pair up with somebody, okay? And grab a penny, and that'll all make sense in a second. Okay. Turn this off while we do it.
Can we turn this one in?
Well, you'll decide after we finish this.